I saw him before sunrise. He was standing in my backyard, motionless beside the fence, staring toward my kitchen window. I froze with my coffee mug halfway to my mouth. The sky was still dark, the neighborhood was quiet, and nobody should have been behind my house. When he finally turned and walked out through the gate, I rushed to the window. That's when I noticed something carved into the fence near the latch, a single vertical mark. Fresh wood shavings still hung from it. I had never seen it before. I grabbed my phone and checked the backyard camera. The footage showed the man entering through the gate at 4:36 a.m. He didn't wander around like someone lost. He moved with purpose. First the shed, then the trash cans, then the back door. He stood there for almost a minute staring directly at the house. Before leaving, he walked to the fence and scratched something into the wood. The camera angle couldn't clearly show what he was doing, but when I paused the video, it looked like the exact spot where I had just found the mark. The strange part wasn't seeing him, it was realizing I never heard him arrive. The gate dragged loudly across the concrete every time it opened. Even neighbors complained about the noise, yet somehow a man entered my backyard, stood there for several minutes, and left without making a sound. The silence felt wrong. It felt intentional. As I stood there staring at the footage, a soft tap came from the back door, then another, 3 slow taps, exactly where he had been standing in the video. I checked every lock in the house and tried convincing myself it was a random trespasser, but the next morning another motion alert arrived before sunrise. This time the backyard was empty. The man never appeared. What did appear was a second mark carved into the fence. It sat a few inches below the first one. The 2 marks looked deliberate, like tally marks. My stomach dropped. Someone wasn't just entering my yard. Someone was returning. For the next 3 mornings, I woke before dawn and watched through the blinds. Nothing happened, no movement, no sounds. Then on the 4th morning, I spotted him again. He wasn't in the backyard this time. He was standing in the alley behind the fence. Even from that distance, I could tell he was looking directly toward my house. The moment I reached for my phone, he walked away. When I checked outside later, there was a 3rd mark carved into the fence. I knocked on my neighbor's door and asked if their security camera covered the alley. They agreed to check the footage. What we found made everything worse. The man appeared in the alley several nights before I ever saw him in my backyard. He never approached any other houses. He never stopped anywhere else. Every clip showed him standing across from my property, watching, sometimes for minutes, sometimes for over an hour. Then he would leave before sunrise. The more I thought about it, the more I remembered little things that hadn't made sense. My gate occasionally seemed unlocked when I knew I had secured it. A lawn chair would be slightly moved. Once I found muddy footprints near the shed, but blamed it on a trespasser. I replaced the gate lock immediately. For one day, I felt better. Then the next morning, I found another carved mark on the fence. Whoever was doing this wanted me to know the new lock didn't matter. The following week, a motion alert woke me at 4:42 a.m. I opened the camera feed and felt my chest tighten. The man was back inside the backyard. This time, he wasn't near the fence. He was standing directly outside my kitchen window. He wasn't trying to hide. He wasn't looking around. He was looking into the house, as if he knew exactly where I slept and exactly when I would wake up. Then he slowly raised one hand and pointed toward the fence before walking away. Later that morning, I walked outside and counted the carvings. There were 7 of them now, 7 vertical lines scratched into the wood. While staring at them, I noticed something I hadn't before. Several older marks had been sanded down and painted over. My landlord had covered them during previous maintenance. When I asked him about it, his face immediately changed. He admitted another tenant had complained about strange carvings on the same fence years earlier before suddenly moving out. That night I barely slept. Around 3:50 a.m., I heard something outside my bedroom window. It wasn't loud, just a faint scrape, then another. I forced myself to look. Nobody was there, but when I checked the backyard camera, I realized it had gone offline nearly 20 minutes earlier. My internet was still working. Everything else was connected. Only the backyard camera had failed. For the first time, I started wondering if he knew exactly where every camera was positioned. Just before sunrise, a sound echoed from the hallway closet, a slow knock. 3 times. I sat upright in bed. The closet door remained closed, but the sound came again. 3 slow knocks, then silence. I searched the closet, then the entire house, and found nothing. No open windows, no unlocked doors, no explanation. As I stood in the hallway listening, my phone vibrated with a motion alert from the backyard camera. The notification showed movement near the fence only seconds before the knocking started. But when I opened the footage, the recording had cut off mid-frame. Yet when I checked outside afterward, there was another fresh mark carved into the fence. This one was deeper than the others and carved directly beside the previous symbols. The dirt beneath it looked freshly disturbed, as if someone had been standing there watching the house only moments earlier. Whoever was out there somehow knew I had heard the knocking, and judging by the new mark, they knew exactly where I was inside the house when it happened. The last time I saw him was the morning I decided to leave. I woke before my alarm and looked through the kitchen blinds. He was already standing in the backyard, closer than ever before. He wasn't watching the house this time. He was staring directly at the fence. Then he reached forward and carved one final line into the wood. Before leaving, he looked toward the window. Even from that distance, I had the unsettling feeling he knew I was watching him. Then he walked through the gate and disappeared into the darkness. 3 days later, I returned to collect the rest of my belongings. Before leaving for good, I walked into the backyard one final time. The fence now contained 9 carved marks, but beside them was something new, a small arrow pointing toward the house. I checked old photos on my phone and realized the arrow had not been there before. Someone had added it after I moved out. I still don't know who he was, why he chose my house, or what the marks actually meant. What bothers me most is knowing he started marking the property long before I ever noticed him standing there before sunrise. Sometimes the scariest warning isn't a broken lock or a forced door. Sometimes it's a small sign that somebody has been paying attention longer than you realize. If you've ever noticed something that felt wrong but couldn't explain it, trust your instincts. And if you enjoy realistic horror stories that feel like they could happen to anyone, subscribe to This Horror Reel and join us for more unsettling stories every week.